Welcome to Crime Yapper, where the host dives deep into the darkest corners of human nature and uncovers the stories behind the most notorious criminals. Your host today, Lauren Hoffman, will be unraveling the chilling tale of one of America's most prolific serial killers, Gary Ridgway, also known as the Green River Killer.
Gary Leon Ridgway was born on February 18, 1949 in Salt Lake City, Utah. He was raised in a deprived neighborhood. Ridgway's early life was marked by instability and violence. His mother, Mary Ridgway, was a domineering figure, often engaging in heated arguments with his father, Tom Ridgway. This toxic environment had a profound impact on young Gary. From a young age, Ridgway exhibited troubling behaviors. He struggled academically, and his social interactions were often awkward and inappropriate. By the age of 16, he had already committed his first known violent act, stabbing a 6-year-old boy because he wanted to know what the experience of killing someone would be like. Thankfully, the boy survived, but Ridgway's dark impulses had begun to surface. In 1958, the Ridgway family moved to the state of Washington. They didn't have much money, so they lived in a square 100-foot house. All 3 of the boys shared one room. Until the age of 13, Ridgway wet the bed. When this would happen, his mother would wash his genitals for him. Ridgway claimed that there was no sexual abuse. He graduated high school at the age of 20 because he was held back twice. He had a low IQ of 82. His classmates claimed that he was socially well adapted, but was awkward and at times would be inappropriate. Fast forward to the early 1980s, Ridgway was living in the Seattle-Tacoma area. He had already been married twice and was working as a truck painter. It was during this time that many women, most of them sex workers or runaways, began to disappear along State Route 99. The first bodies were discovered in the Green River in 1982, earning the unknown killer his infamous moniker, the Green River Killer. Ridgway's operanda was both methodical and brutal. He would pick up victims in his truck, often gaining their trust before strangling them to death. He later confessed to strangling them because it was less messy and gave them a sense of power. Ridgway would then dispose of the bodies in remote wooded areas, often returning to the corpses to engage in acts of necrophilia. Ridgway was an organized killer. Organized serial killers are killers that often plan their crimes methodically, usually abducting their victims and killing them in one place and then disposing of them in another. Ridgway would often lure his victims as ploys to appeal to their senses of sympathy, and he was mostly targeting prostitutes, which is a trait of organized serial killers. As the body count rose, so did public fear and the pressure on law enforcement. The Green River Task Force was formed with detectives like Dave Riker and profiler Johnny Douglas working tirelessly to catch the killer. Despite numerous interviews and 2 polygraph tests that Ridgway passed, he still managed to elude capture for nearly 2 decades. He even gave detectives saliva samples. Advances in forensic science eventually proved to be Ridgway's undoing. In the late 1990s, DNA technology progressed to the point where detectives could re-examine evidence from the crime scenes. In 2001, a match between Ridgway's saliva and sperm samples found in several victims allowed the Green River Killer to finally be identified. Gary Ridgway was arrested on November 30, 2001. Facing the possibility of the death penalty, he opted to cooperate with authorities in exchange for a life sentence without parole. Over the course of his interviews, Ridgway confessed to the murders of 70 women, though he is suspected of having killed even more. His confessions were chilling. Ridgway spoke of his murders with a detached calmness, often unable to remember the names of his victims. He claimed to have chosen women who were vulnerable and unlikely to be missed, revealing a cold and calculated mindset. Gary was sentenced to a life in prison without the possibility of parole in 2003. His case had a profound impact on both the victims' families and the field of criminal justice. Today, Ridgway is incarcerated at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla. His story serves as a grim reminder of the evil that can lurk behind an ordinary facade.
thank you for joining us on this journey into the mind of the Green River Killer. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we uncover another harrowing crime story. Until then, stay safe and stay curious.